it's not something that's natural. It's not something that's easy. There definitely is an adjustment phase. I wouldn't say a learning curve, but it's just like your body is compensating for it. So for me, my eye would get tired not only from the cup itself, but also from that closed-in light on the sides, the lack of light on the sides. What's up, Munchie? Something covering one eye, held up by a band around your head, Pyro Watchmaker. More like Mad Eye Moody, maybe. Yeah. That's too much. Nice, very nice. Our mainspring's ready. Hey, what's up, Special? Welcome on in. If you have any questions, comments, or just want to share, feel free to keep it to yourself. All right, let's prep our bridge here. Hey, schoolboy. Rimdog, what triggers the duck sound? I think it's a follow. And it's a throwback. Channel lore. Back when I was streaming from the other shop, when I first got, well, not first got, the first stream rig, I had everything plugged into the same circuit, including the bench lathe. And what was happening is when I would run the lathe, there would be this ground loop feedback or something that just sort of piped in through the microphone or something. I have no idea what had happened, but it was every time I would run the lathe, it would make this quacking noise. It would just be like quack, 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 and it was just like, chat. I couldn't hear it. You know, I'm just like minding my own bee, like turning some metal, and the chat's just like, what is that quacking? So I literally had to like listen to the VOD to be like, oh, I get it. Or somebody sent me a clip, I think. And then it got me thinking, okay, if it's only happening when I'm using the lathe, then it's got to be the lathe. And then I think what I did temporarily was I swapped the plug-in for it, which was kind of a pain because we had to, being that the benches were in the middle of the shop, we had to have a long extension to get power to the middle of the shop. So what I ended up doing after that, I think, was I bought is it a PSU? I just bought like a, emergency power unit. And then I could have both of them plugged in because the power units, they provide their own sine wave or something like that. I forget. UPS, thank you. Liquid, is there any other device you can think of which has complexity of watch movement for the sheer scale of its manufacture and operation? So something as complex but the same form factor, right? Aside from like gauges like airplane gauges or something like that, cockpit gauges, I can't really think of a whole lot. That's a good question for chat. Chat's smarter than me. Especially I do enjoy watching Skilled Craftsperson at work. Amazing know-how being displayed. Oh, thank you. That's what I like to do, is I like to share this work. What happened to the bench lathe when I came? I don't recall you having one. I have it here. It's right next to me on the right. It's not fully set up, and so far I haven't had a need for it. But the plan was to set up short one here, long one here. The long one for different tool sets, so that this one could be just for pivot repair, polish, minor things. And then I could have something for a little more tailored for like manufacturing over here. So I'm still in the market for a long bed lathe, something 40 centimeters or greater. Still looking. I've found a couple here and there pop up for sale, but then they just ended up going well out of my price range. And I'm currently looking at one, but we'll see how it goes. Long bed lathe, 40 centimeters. Yeah, 42 would be pretty primo. But yeah, these shorter ones, they're like, usually they're less than a foot. So that gives you an idea. I recently acquired some gear set. And I think it was for indexing or screw cutting. I haven't really had the time to really examine it. Okay, so this wheel doesn't have anything holding it in place. The trick is, how do you get it to stay put? And then when you go to turn it over, it doesn't fall out like that. And I'll show you what I usually do. But before that, we'll get the rest of our winding assembly in place. Schoolboy, I have a mechanical chrono where the second hand doesn't reset to 12 and not to the same spot each time. What's the brand? What's the manufacturer? Based on position when reset pressed, do you think that means the hand is loose or is there something wrong inside? It's probably due for a service. A lot of times what ends up happening is people will lubricate the chronograph hearts either with the wrong lubricant or way too much, and that lubrication gets sticky and gummy over time. So when the reset hammers come in and smack that chrono heart, they end up getting stuck. So it doesn't have like freedom of motion to completely return to zero. So if you end up smacking it from, say like 4:30, it'll get stuck on one side, and then you smack it from 6:30 and it'll get stuck on the other side. That sort of thing. 6:30, say like 7:30. Basically one side is 6 o'clock or the other, because the very peak of the heart is should be right at 6 o'clock. So when the hammer comes to strike one side or the other of the heart, it really depends on which way it's going to reset. I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever, but if it was working fine on up until that point, that's likely the case, is that it's due for service. And I know how annoying that is. I really do. Tiso, movement is etamodular. Oh, it's a module, right? So it's not a 7750 chronograph. It's like a 2894. 2894, and then it has a module stacked on top. Makes sense. Brogan, unless the watch is designed to return to 12 the same direction every time, those exist too. Oh, you might be thinking of a flyback. It was working fine before, so that all sounds right to me. 2894, okay. The module might not be entirely serviceable, unfortunately. I'm not sure if that's the case in your particular application. But sometimes those modules, from the factory, the watch comes in for a service and they'll just replace the entire module. It certainly cuts down on labor, but it makes it very tricky from a serviceability standpoint. Okay, so to hold that wheel in place, what I like to do is put a little bit of grease on the post. And that grease acts as like a kind of like a glue, I guess, if you will. But it really just provides that surface tension. Is that the right word? It's kind of like with two pieces of glass. Have you ever stuck two pieces of glass together and then like tried to separate them? It can be really difficult, especially if there's some water in between there. If there's some water in the glass as well, it can become like vacuum sealed together. Yes, flybacks, they grind. Hey, Gamp. Capillary action. Usually when I think of capillary action, it's when you put a bit of oil, like on a post, and it sucks it in, sucks the oil in. Kind of like ringing gauge blocks. I'm not sure what you mean. It's like a Venturi effect? No, not a Venturi effect either. You guys are funny. Okay. Let's see if I can do this without that wheel falling out. Uh-oh. I gotta lift it back up. Oh, I think we're good. I think we're okay. So at this point, you can't just put the screws in and screw it down into place. You gotta make sure that the ratchet wheel is meshing properly. So what I do is I put a little bit of downward pressure and then wiggle the ratchet wheel. You gotta rotate it a little. There we go. And by rotating it a little, you get the teeth on this pinion to mesh up with our ratchet wheel. And then it sits completely flush. You wouldn't want to screw this down into place without verifying and making sure that those teeth are where they need to be. Because what will end up happening is the pinion on this wheel will end up coming down and crushing the ratchet wheel. And it's possible it could damage it. Pretty sure capillary action involves a tube of some sort. Yeah, I'll show you what capillary action is. Let me put a couple of screws in this first. Or let me tighten the screws. No, I think it is surface tension. Maybe not. I don't know. No, I think that's just the resistance. Like I think what surface tension describes is like, you know how there's like bugs in some lakes and streams where those bugs can walk across the surface of the water? And that's because of surface tension. And capillary action, at least in this case, is how the oil itself wicks into a very, very tight surface, tight tolerance area. I wonder if I can capture that. Like so. Maybe. Let's give it a go. Okay, so here we have our mainspring arbor and then the bushing around it. So in order to get oil into that bushing, take a little bit. I think that's a bit too much. But once you touch it to there, that oil gets sucked in. And that's the capillary action. Did you guys see it happen once I had the oiler rested there? It was like a vacuum sucked the oil in. But yeah, that was a bit too much, as you can see the excess on the outside. So in the description of it, the capillary action would be is if you already had the two pieces of glass put together along that seam across the top, if you were to put some liquid across the seam, it would get sucked into, and you would see that liquid in between the panes. But what I was trying to describe was the resistance that those two panes have against being pulled apart. So because they're relatively really flat, they end up, pushing out all the air, almost all the air in between them. And then to separate those two, it's almost like they're sucked together with vacuum. It's just adhesion. Hey Beats. School glass is stuck together, so basically a vacuum because it's so smooth there is no gap for air. Atmosphere just holds it. Molecular attraction or cohesion. I like that. They have tiny air bubbles. Beats, yeah, I can't jump into water from too high surface tension. Okay. Went around the top edge on the curve. Ego is adhesive force or cohesive. Oh, I think that sounds right. I like that. Okay, so with a little bit too much oil, you're left with just a touch on the surface. So what do you do to take that out? You can use a little bit of watch paper, or you can use Rodico. I like to use watch paper at first, and then if there's a bit of a residue left, you can use Rodico. Cleaning my Rodico here. Oil went around, but we could see. Yeah, it's tough to do it like that. For one, you don't have depth perception, but for two, I'm far more stable right here than I am reaching out over here. So it looks a little shaky. Rimdog, what is watch paper? It's like an oil wicking paper that's low in fiber. The one that I have and use is Newell. There we go. Watch tissue. Just some square sheets. A lot of different consumables in this industry. Gotta go for dinner. It was awesome to hang out here again. Right on. Enjoy your food. Roto something? Rotico, yeah. So I have a few different styles and types here. As of late, I just rarely use it. It's really, really necessary to have. So the dark gray one was Bourjois. Like this is way more that I'm going to use for decades, I think. But the sheets of white one were very, very old. Like I remember the branding and the labeling on it was like, it was like from the 50s or 60s. So it's not really like this stuff kind of goes bad per se. And a little goes a long way. It does get dirty, it does get contaminated over time, so it does need to be thrown out the more it's used. Thought I had more in here of that white stuff. So Rotico is like it's like a cleaner. It's slightly adhesive, slightly sticky, but when it's clean, it shouldn't leave a residue. So if you've got a little bit of dust or if you've got like a little bit of oil, it'll pick it up. And I guess I haven't been using it a whole lot is because a lot of times to pick up dust, I'll use my tweezers. I really wouldn't recommend leaving it out unless it's in a container, because any sort of dust and contaminants that are in the air just eventually will settle, and when it settles on there, it ever so slightly contaminates it. But if you're in a shop and it's just like you're using it all the time, odds are you have a supply where it's like it gets dirty, you throw it away, and then, you use a new piece. Okay, now we can put a little bit of lube on that guy. We can get our gear train in. And then I think at that point we'll finish off the dial side stuff. And then lube it all top to bottom. And then finish off with our balance assembly and auto winding assembly. Ad, I'm missing the explanation. Oh no. Is the ad over? just a slight amount of oxidation here. So I'm gonna take my pegwood here and run it across. Yet another consumable. I would classify pegwood as a very, very soft and mild wood. And when you rub it on brass, it's not what I would really consider abrasive, but it's got enough of an abrasive property to it that it will take care of any surface oxidation. So instead of using something like a sandpaper or like, emery cloth or whatever, the pegwood itself will take off the top layer of oxidized brass. Or even if there's like surface scum or anything like that, it'll scoop it right off. And that's something that you could even use Rhodeco for. Depending on the type, some Rhodecos are a little more sticky and tacky, some are a little more dry and rough. So that green one that I showed you is like an old, hard, rough Rhodeco. Escape wheel's looking flawless. Okay. This little one screw bridge for 2890 series, most of the time is gonna be a non-issue. There's been a couple in entry-level swatch group that I've had issue with. And here, this one just falls right into place. All the pivots right where they need to be. The issues that I've come across were not only for that bridge, but also the mainspring bridge. A couple of times it's happened where they were so tight, the bridge themselves, even after taking the screws out, they were so tight that it took prying force in order to lift it up and out. Which is really not ideal. It's really just one of those times where it's like, quality control was, it was just, it was either a Monday or a Friday. But usually these movements are trouble-free. But in that circumstance, what I ended up doing was just reaming out the dowel holes a little bit, just ever so slightly. Not so much removing material, but just sort of burnishing it. Because it's either a combination of the dowel peg, the locator lug, that is on the bottom side of these bridges, being slightly too large, or the hole that they go into being slightly too tight, or maybe even a combination of the two. So usually by reaming out the hole itself, you end up relieving some pressure on that bridge. It's really not something you would run into on like higher end Swatch. Really, it's just like, I think there was a dog at the door. Because these movements, they come in different grades. So there's like pretty entry level, which I wouldn't consider this one to be entry level. This is like, say if there's 4 different grades, I don't actually know if that's the case. I would say this would be like B grade, I don't know. All right, what's next? Did we go dial side? Finish off the calendar? Let's do that. I'll use the gravity assist to get that out. These are looking very clean. Still couldn't hurt to dump them though. Dunk them in either one dip or benzene or alcohol. Let it soak a bit. Get out some calendar parts. How are we doing? Dropped almost 25,000 frames, but we're okay for now. Okay, let's lube up some things first. And then we'll start with set bridge area. Okay. Get our clutch wheel and winding pinion. Parts looking nice and clean, yeah. They certainly are. All right, let's get our yoke in. And then we need detent, set bridge. Then we have a setting yoke here, which has a couple of little bits and bobs. So that goes in before our detent. This will toggle back and forth. That's a bit too much. There we go. Now we can put our yoke and detent in place. The yoke goes like that. drops into that channel of the clutch wheel, just like so. Goes right down the middle of that clutch wheel. Or for a hobbyist or all, just what tools are a must. Tweezers, a loop, screwdriver set, maybe a bench mat. When it comes to lubricants, you need probably Mobius 8000 and Mobius 8200. You might need a couple of movement holders. You might want a balance tack. You might want some pith wood and some peg wood. A couple of jars for solvents. Couple of like dust movement holders so that you can, anything that you're working on, you can cover it up so that it doesn't get too contaminated with dust. You might need a couple of blocks. Pin vise, probably a couple of different types. You might want one like this, and then also one like this. Because this one grips not perfectly parallel. Whereas this one, depending on the style of the fitting at the tip here, it can grip pretty parallel. You might want at least, a presso tool for removing hands. My preference is for hand levers, like that. You might want a couple of hand press tools for different size hands. Maybe a couple of dentist tools. You can just go to your dentist and ask them, hey, do you have any leftover tools? Odds are they probably do, because they have to replace theirs pretty frequently. Some Rodico, maybe some brooches. Some silicone lube. It kind of depends on what area you're leaning towards, whether it's pocket watches or vintage ladies watches or, modern wrist watches. Or if you're just going towards quartz, there's different avenues for sure. You're gonna want some oilers. You might want some abrasive stones, whether it be an India stone or an Arkansas stone. Or if you can come across like something like this, that's probably fine. You're gonna need abrasive stones for sharpening tools mainly. Keeping your tools dressed up. You're gonna need case back tools, case opening tools. You're gonna need a hand vise. Something to pop open case backs with. And then a case press in order to pop them back into place with different cup sizes. You might need a crystal remover and crystal installer. You might need some GS crystal glue. Probably not Loctite. Maybe UV glue if you're doing crystal replacements. If they're acrylic, you're gonna need the press for some of them. Different types of case back popping tools go a long way. There's some applications where a typical case knife isn't really gonna do the trick. Having something like this, my particular preference is the Citizen one. This thing has gotten me out of a lot of binds. And then you're gonna need some sort of JAXA tool, case wrench with different tips. Don't go too cheap with this one. Don't get the $5 JAXA tool, because those, you might be able to get away with it, but don't use the tips that they supply. The tips that they use are incredibly brittle. You'll be trying to take off a tight case back and the tip will break on you, and then it just leaves a nasty gouge in the watch. You're gonna want maybe something like this, speed lubricator, just for lubing up O-rings. Maybe, I say, because a lot of times you can do it by hand, but then you got silicone grease all over the place. You might need a couple of different styles of pliers. Side cutters for sure. You're definitely gonna want some side cutters. There again, you might want one side cutter for steel and then one side cutter for softer metals. Because if you just use your one side cutter for steel for other things, you're gonna notice it's really dull. It's not that good. It's not gonna leave you a nice clean cut. You're probably gonna want some scratch pens in varying degrees of abrasiveness. Like fiberglass is gonna be very abrasive. Nylon is gonna be really, really soft. You might want some chapstick for chewing your lips. I don't know if you guys are lip biters, but you're gonna want a brass hammer for sure. And then you might want a steel one, but odds are one little brass hammer will get you a long way. I don't think you're gonna need a whole lot of files. You might want a couple of soft bristle brushes. You might want some brass brush. You're gonna use brass brush more than you use steel brush. some calipers. It certainly helps to have multiple different sizes and types of case back pops. I don't think you're gonna need hand holding tools. You're not gonna really need like roller table tools. A few different pins to have. Sometimes you need to press something and pop something. If you just have like a few different styles of pins and brooches and things, you really never know when you're going to use them and need them. You might not need screw assortments. You might not need dial tape. You might not need wash tissue, but certainly some Rodico. Okay, you're also gonna need an air bulb. You're gonna need it. There's a lot of applications and things where you really don't want to use dust off. Like absolutely no dust off in certain applications. Inside of movements, probably no dust off. Outside, knock yourself out, but just be careful with dust off, because when the tank is full, it's far, far easier to get that like super, super cold like liquid that immediately evaporates. That will damage things. Absolutely 100% that will damage things. So just be aware when your dust off can is full to be very, very careful with it. Don't turn it, don't shake it, don't do anything like that, because that will give you that like almost like absolute zero cold stream. You'll probably want an X-Acto knife for certain things. Sharpening your pegwood. Sometimes there's gaskets that you need to cut, that sort of thing. Let's see. You'll probably want a battery tester if you're getting into quartz stuff and things. That kind of rounds it out, I think. You're not going to need things like, why has this name been escaping me as of late? You're probably not going to need shellac. A toothpick every now and then is actually pretty handy. And if you really start getting into it and you're really, really enjoying it, getting some sort of like organization going where you've got like some containers to hold different things that you use. There's probably something obvious that I'm missing. If you can think about it, feel free to put it out there. Rear wagon, like a vise you have in front of you. Yeah, these movement holders, a lot of times you're gonna have like an oddball one that just really, really works for any specific application that you're working on. So a lot of these, like the style that you see me gravitate towards is something like this, you know. They're reversible most of the time. I really like these because they have a bit of heft to them and they're not obnoxious. You're gonna see a lot of hobbyists with this style of movement holder. This is the Bourgeon style. This one I've modified. It's like the 4036, 4039. I never really liked these. They were always quirky, weird to work with. I didn't like that they were too tall, and I didn't like that they were too light. Once I sort of went towards a heavier movement holder, I pretty much abandoned this one altogether. There are certain movements where you're almost certainly going to need this. A lot of ladies' movements, older ladies' movements, they're going to be small. Some are shaped just like this. Older men's wind-up watches, some movements are this exact shape. They're semi-rectangular and they're sort of rounded at the sides. This, you know, you can still make this work in a lot of those cases. But yeah, for tiny little women's, you know, watch movements, ladies' watch movements, this thing certainly works. The way that I modified this was so that I could hold it in my fingers like so. So I just sort of cut away at both of these sides here. And I think I sanded it down. I don't remember. It might have just been the sides. Holding it still, holding it in place while you're doing things was always quirky and awkward for me with this one. I do recommend like buying used tools, older tools, used tools. If you buy a lot of this stuff new, it's gonna set you back a lot. So just be aware of that. Sometimes you can just go on eBay and find tool lots and you can be like, okay, this has some of the things I need, a lot of the things I don't, but you're gonna save a lot of money by, you know, instead of piecemealing like one piece at a time, which can get very expensive, those tool lots, sometimes you might just get the entire lot for like 2 pieces that you're really needing and wanting. But then you're left over with extras, and sometimes it's okay to have extras. Also, I would imagine a lot of hobbyists could get a lot of use out of something like this, like a watch pad, where maybe you don't have a bench mat, maybe you're just on wood or on a table or something, and these watch pads are really nice. I use it for the microscope camera, almost exclusively. I think that kind of gives you an idea. Now that's not including like cleaning supplies and stuff, so that is a different animal altogether. Really depends on what kind of cleaner you're going with, whether you're doing it by hand or what. Get yourself a watch, crystal rag, something that you don't use for anything else. Like having a standard towel is really good to have. You don't want to take your standard towel and then rub around on the inside of the crystal to clean it out. It's going to leave a lot of fibers. It's going to leave probably some contaminants. It might even scratch the crystal. So that's something to keep in mind. Ouchie. Screwdriver holder. This is for sharpening your screwdriver. Having a little jig like this so that you can run it across your stone. Pretty critical. Doing it by hand, you're never really gonna get the profile that you need and want. You want your tools to work for you. You don't want to be working against your tools. Getting the profile of your screwdriver blades is gonna make or break your experience. So take a lot of time making sure your screwdrivers are dressed up the way that you want them to be. It certainly is beneficial to have some screwdrivers meant for like opening up case back screws, and then others meant for just like working on the movement itself. Maybe a demagnetizer. There again, having your tools work for you and not having them work against you. How long did that take to go over all that? Oh, don't put your work area in a carpeted area. You don't want carpet underneath you. Go figure. And then there's certain things that you need to take into consideration, like ergonomics. Again, your ergonomics will make or break your experience. Making sure that your chair is set at the right height is so critical. Take the time to make sure that your bench is comfortable for you. You don't want to be straining yourself when you're at your bench. Hey, Cakes. Did you bring cake? I only have cookies. Oatmeal. Don't forget the streaming computer and tons of webcams. Yeah. I mean, if you really start getting into it, getting yourself a lathe setup and maybe even a microscope camera could go a long way. Flux capacitor testing for quartz watches. Missing movement cleaning supplies and machine. I know a lot of hobbyists that will do it by hand. They will do their cleaning like with soft bristle brush and like a vat of like solvent, and then just scrubbing things that way. Certainly you can, if you're motivated enough and broke enough, because the cleaning machines themselves can be exorbitantly expensive. Especially if you're looking at newer ones, new cleaning machines, they can be in the thousands of dollars easily. So at that point, it's like the lines of the hobbyist have become blurred, you know? You can certainly make your own cleaning solutions. With some oleic acid, I think it was oleic acid, ammonia, distilled water, What was it? 20 Mule Team? If you search like homemade watch cleaning or homemade clock cleaning solution, you're probably going to see something along those lines. Now, if you take your time and are hunting around and you're looking for a cleaning machine, you can get away with the L&R. Is it Mastermatic? It's the non-ultrasonic cleaning machine. And those won't set you back like thousands. It'll maybe be a couple of hundred. And if you take your time, maybe you could find this one. Maybe you can find the Bulova Watchmaster. I think this one I got for, I want to say like $350. But you're kind of taking a gamble because like the people that are selling them might not be aware of like what the functions are, how it's supposed to be working. They might just say fully functional, but they don't realize that, well, the ultrasonic's barely humming along, it's not even doing the job. Or they might not realize that, the transducer could be weak or needs replacement, or the tubes are bad, or so there is a bit of you're rolling the dice a little. Because they are old. It is an old machine, so while I really like it and really like the Sonic when it's really working good. It's got a very aggressive cleaning action. Not too aggressive, just it's a good Sonic. You probably could just get away with like a small jeweler's Sonic, truth be told. Getting yourself a small jeweler's Sonic might be the way to go. But there again, these can be very pricey. Like something like that, You're certainly going to want something like that for at least, cleaning bands and cases. But the way you can use this for a watch movement is you get like a glass beaker. So you get a glass beaker, you put your solution in the glass beaker, you set it down in there with the tank, you fill up the tank after you put the glass beaker in, otherwise you're going to have some overflow. But then you let the solution heat up along with the ultrasonic. And the glass jar or beaker itself isn't going to cancel out all of the ultrasonic waves. In some cases, it might have the potential to amplify them. Okay. Rotten Picks, what watch is this one? This is the Bell & Ross. Kodo Killer, do you still sell watches? Yeah, I'm working on this Bell & Ross to sell. And I got this Heuer all dialed in and ready to sell. There is somebody interested in the Bell & Ross. Nobody's really contacted me yet for the Heuer. So what will likely happen is the Heuer will probably go on eBay, whereas this one will be probably sold to one of you. Hey Akabiti, just use paper towels, grease. Oops, hang on, I need to catch up with you guys. Grease and oil from car work would add to help lube to the watch. Unironically, brake cleaner in automotive cases, which is tetrachloroethylene, is almost the exact same thing as One Dip. One Dip, used specifically for watches, is very, very close to brake cleaner. So, Plenty of Light. Hey, that's actually a great one there, Rogue Wagon. 12 hours, it took 12 hours. Okay, I started by hand. It takes a while, but it does work as well as you want it to. Yeah, as much time as you got, certainly. Bleach and ammonia is a good cleaning mix. Wait, isn't that... You don't want to do that, right? That makes a very highly toxic gas. It's bleach and ammonia, right? That makes like kill you gas, like fluorine gas or something. I don't know. Yeah, don't do that. I might be wrong. Maybe it's a different mix. 88 mile an hour. Cleaning machine, guess you could get a steel rod attached locking. RC motor will be a good way. Iron Chef, I've got like 4 of them just sitting there. Downhill it would. Hey Yochi, use the basic ultrasonic where you put in clean and rinse solutions in jars and parts and baskets in those. Yeah. And then it's, you know, double duty where you can use it for watch cases and watch bands. Or even, you know, jewelry. Rodney, it's great to see Pop streaming again. Yeah, he's really enjoying it. McFarlane, is there a good market for watches? Yeah, I would say so. YouTube vids are nice, but streaming with chat interaction is so much better. Thanks for this. Oh, my pleasure. Omega Red brake cleaner is great for stripping off, paint off miniatures. Yeah, just don't do it in a closed area. If you're working on your miniatures in your mom's basement, just go outside to use the brake cleaner. I'm just kidding. Miniatures are awesome. Good eyes. If you have bad eyes, it's hard to get around. Bleach and ammonia is chloramine gas, which will mess you up but might not kill. Okay, okay. Yo, Moose, got to meet your daddy. Right on. Very cool. How did that go? It's not often you get to say that, right? It's kind of fun. So Moose, I've been building out my new shop. It started out life as a tractor shed, and I've pulled out the walls, cleaned everything out. And so far I've got the hole cut for the door. And when I get back, probably next week, I will start doing the framing and the header for the door, and then framing for bathroom, and then comes insulation, walls. Probably won't be going with drywall, probably just going with like facade. Installing AC, a little bit of wiring. It was already wired up pretty much. But then everything bathroom related comes a little bit later. Getting the flooring in is probably going to be done early next month. And then I pack all this up and set it up over there. It's been fun. I've pulled out probably a good 400 nails. The guy who put the walls up, like, really went at it with the nail gun, let me tell you. It's like, maybe that wasn't necessary. Maybe you didn't need to use an entire belt on that one wall. You haven't been streaming building your shop, have you? No, I haven't. I guess I could with my phone, but it would. I'm not really decked out for it. Like, your setup is great, and you've got the experience with it to know how to work around it. So chloramine gas, bleach and vinegar is chlorine gas, which has been used as a chemical weapon and will kill you. Okay. Now I get to clip what you're saying because Twitch gave me a minute of ads. Akabidi, bleach and ammonia might kill you. Bleach and vinegar will kill. Okay. So it's very, very good to know. If you use Chrome, consider Twitch Adblock. Yeah. Adblocks don't work with Twitch. Not all of the time. Sometimes they do. This is a 480p one. Morally opposed to Adblock, especially on channels that I enjoy. Well, they don't really pay us much. I mean, it's like pennies. So you're not. You might think you're supporting your streamer or whatever, but I don't think it adds up to a whole lot. Gonna do your own AC central or wall mount? Wall mount. It's just a unit from Costco. I want to say it's not Midas. It's Medea, something like that. But I think it's a heat pump because it's got AC and heater built into the same unit. Omega Twitch Turbo is the best money I've ever spent. That's the thing. That is the thing, right? Where am I at here? I'm on the set bridge. It's funny because they don't advertise it, and they don't make it easy to find. Anywho. Good source of ammonia and household cleaners, Windex. They do have a slight amount, I think. Yeah, those are easy. It's more for YouTube. Ruwagen air filtration system for dust. That unit. I'm gonna seal off everything really well. There's gotta be a vent for the bathroom. There's gotta be a bit of a vent for the roof. So what I'll end up doing is just put a very nice filter in front of the vent. Something that I can replace easily. Do you know that ad view on Twitch is a fraction of a cent? Yeah, I don't actually know how much, but I know it's hardly anything. Hey, Droog. What's gonna be making dust? Well, technically me. Like, us humans are dust factories. I know it might be kind of gross, but they say that 75% of household dust is dead skin cells. But also, like, anytime you open a door, unless you have a positive pressure room, where when you open the door, the air comes out, not in. Windows, depending on how well they're sealed up, you're gonna get dust coming in from windows. But also your clothes. Your clothes have fibers. So all of those fibers just get kind of aerosolized. They'll just be floating in the air. And those fibers will fall into the movement if you leave them out. But yeah, having everything as clean as you can is pretty, I wouldn't say it's critical, but it's a good idea. Truth be told, this room is probably the most dust-free and cleanest that I've experienced in my career. I've never had a dust-proof room or even anywhere close to that. But this one, surprisingly, I didn't really think it would be, but it really is pretty stinking clean, and it stays that way, which is really fantastic. So if I can even improve on that with the new shop, I will be tickled. But yeah, that's why we have covers for our lubrications, because yeah, you just leave that open and it gets contaminated. Look at me forgetting what your shop will be. Watch prepare and how bad that will be for that, yeah. Slap your shirt you're wearing and watch it closely, yeah. Clothes are great dust collectors, yeah. Yeah, don't forget no Maine Coon kitties. Yeah. Yeah, there won't be any animals. for better or for worse. It's always nice having those little four-legged visitors. But certainly not ideal for watch repair. No donkey noises either, though, unfortunately. Oh, of course. Once I get to the window, then the donkey gets quiet. Donkey. Sometimes once you have your chlorine gas, you can pass it in some carbon monoxide through some activated charcoal. Phosphine gas. What? Don't want to hear about this right now. The last 10 days cutting and grinding quartz for oh, wow. Quartz countertops, very nice. I imagine you have been very thorough with your cleaning. Constant fine dust and causes cancer. Yeah, quartz, they look very nice, right? Sometimes work with composites, carbon fiber, fiberglass, and that dust is scary. Totally. Got a recipe for nukes. Chat. Don't be so dark. All right. Okay, man. Let's, what? Little spider buddy. Where'd you come from? Chat, you're in the way. It's okay. I don't want to trigger any arachnophobes. He's not a cute jumping spider. He's one of those, like, not cute spiders. I shall let you live. You're just but a babe. Omega, are the end of your tweezers just metal? It's just pressure that keeps you from marring the softer Metal Gear's pieces. Yeah, but also you need to keep your tweezers dressed up. Over time, the tweezers themselves will get pretty funky. like pretty bad. So it's important to make sure that if your tweezers get fangled up, that you sharpen them, clean them, keep them dressed. I don't think I have any that are a bad example. Maybe these used ones that I bought. Like that's probably a bad example. Like once you see the tips start to split, that's a recipe for losing screws. Like those are pretty bad. Like those aren't the worst I've seen by any stretch, but I wouldn't want to be using these for picking up small parts because you will almost certainly lose a hold of whatever you have. I got a small friend. I don't know. Time will tell if he's a friend. We're currently occupying the same space, so we'll see. Hey, pizza. He says you're not cute. Our procedures don't really use masks when working with epoxies. Well, that stuff will mess with your brain. Mainly use it when sanding epoxies, cutting cured composites, and when curing composites. Ooh, thank you.
Well, I don't know. We haven't tried it yet.
Don't thank me yet.
Yeah.
Cool. Smells great.
You might need more milk.
Oh,
Do you?
I'll tell you in a second. No, that's perfect. Thank you. I got swamp back, chat. When curing composites. Yeah, I mean, it's off-gassing, right? Whenever you're blending or making a resin. Speaking of spiders, there's been an orb weaver made a web beside the front door. Orb weaver. Wait, is that like... Was it the golden orb weaver that they collected the webbing from and made like a tapestry of it? Was it golden orb weaver? I can't remember. Hey, later, Vindazzle. He says, stream, really enjoy watching every step of the process. Special tailored tuxedos for them every few months. You're only as good as your tweezers. And your screwdrivers, yeah. No, that's actually true, Droog. Gohaku, landlord? Oh, that was my mom. Rimdog, I've been getting that in the car. Pizza orb weaver is a very large family of spiders, okay. Guys with big webs. For some reason we don't use masks with two-part epoxies, only when we're curing pre-impregnated carbon fiber with heat. I mean, it wouldn't hurt, right? If you're curing a lot of epoxies and you got your nose in it, why not? Look like wolf spiders with a huge web sack on its butt. Okay, anywho. We're getting this done tonight, chat. We will have this running and cased up in 10 minutes. Would you believe it? good. Seek app and ID your spider. Ooh, that sounds pretty cool. Seek app. What is that screwdriver? This is the one I want. Okay, a little bit more lube. Right here. Right there. And right there. We probably should. I mean, sit on the computer. My friend came a year before and does a lot of composite. Talks about when you're working with it, you used to get high from the fumes. Yeah. Okay, dude. Like, yeah, that's a big clue that probably should be having a little more PPE. And, you know, in the immortal words of our Lord and Savior, never get high on your own supply. Rest in peace, Biggie. Almost just spilled coffee all down the front of me. Just smooth operator, you know? I think I'm just about ready for a calendar. being that I have easy access to the palette stones, I'm going to use some palette stone oil and lube up those stones. We have better safety practices now. It doesn't happen anymore. That's been fixed. Oh, good. Spiders are awesome. They eat the bugs and that annoy the friggin'. Yeah, that's exactly why we don't kill the is it huntsman spiders? Daddy longlegs. Which, fun fact, they're not actually spiders. Yeah, daddy longlegs are not in the spider family. Or they're kind of, but not really. Yeah. Kind of funny. They have a little appendage. Should really be using a respirator for that kind of work. Yeah. I mean, at certain occupations, mask isn't enough. You need like positive airflow. Or what is it like? Rebreather? Engine, thank you for the sub. How you doing, Engine? Daff, I have a fun spider tail. Once saw one with a very large abdomen in your shower. Thought nothing of it. Gave birth to a lot of baby spiders. Swung down while I was in the shower. Trying to hitch a ride. They're also not daddies. Crane flies. Hey, Matt. We do have respirators, honestly. Forgot what they were called. Okay. Daddy longlegs is one of those idiotic common names. Yeah, that's used for creatures in a variety of orders. Yeah. I've heard other names for them as well. It's just escaping me currently. We didn't back then. Hey, Drez, I was working with this kid one time ago who was seriously afraid of daddy longlegs. It's kind of silly. Like, I will be the first to admit when a fear, you know, one of my own fears is irrational. Be like, yep, I understand that this is totally stupid, and there really is nothing to be afraid of. But yeah, when it comes to the huntsmans, it's like, they can't even bite you if they wanted to. And as far as I know, really the only spiders that we should be concerned about, not even afraid, because it's not like they're coming out to get you, you know? The ones that we should be concerned about, it's just like brown recluse and black widow, right? And even then, like a Black Widow isn't really going to do a whole lot of damage to you. They're really only dangerous with like infants and babies. Okay, I gotta get this underneath that wheel.